Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Greetings from Istanbul. Thank you very much for joining my session today, where I will tell a real-life experience about how to transform a revenue assurance team in a better way. But first, let me thank Sarah and CFCA for this opportunity. It's a great pleasure and privilege to be here amongst with the sector leaders. I hope it's not going to be a boring session for you, and hope you all will enjoy it. For those whom we have never met before, my name is Mahir Emrah Sayin. Sorry. Okay. Mahir Emrah Sayin. I'm a fraud and revenue assurance expert, almost with 20 years of experience. I spent those 20 years of experience mostly with the multinational companies such as Citibank and Turkcell communication services. And also, I'm a fundraiser runner. Since this presentation is a great opportunity to reach out to the world, I would like to encourage you for doing some voluntary work wherever you are, whenever you can. And I promise you it's going to be a life-changing experience for you. Before I lose all attention on the slides, let me jump into my presentation. Today, I would like to talk you how we transformed the revenue assurance team in my recent role. But first, let me briefly explain my point of view about revenue assurance concept. Revenue assurance is a must business function to improve both profit and customer experience. I would like to underline the phrase customer experience here. If you go online and Google the term revenue assurance for descriptions, you will come with lots of descriptions. But to me, most of them are seemed a little bit missing since they are not covering the customer experience part. Whatever you are doing, whether you are running a major telco company or you are manufacturing wire rods, it shouldn't matter. We all need to put customer experience in center of our businesses. That's because I choose a description including the customer experience part. I believe that there are 4 major points showing the necessity of the revenue assurance concept for today's telco world. First one is the low margins. Since the markets are getting smaller and the telcos are hit by several OTTs, the margins for business are getting too tight. That's because we need to secure our revenues very well. And secondly, customer experience. Revenue assurance units do watch the billing and billing related systems 24/7 to make sure there are none or at least less errors occur on their systems. This is the basic meaning of the revenue assurance team in the organizations. Those kinds of controls help telcos to secure their revenues, but those controls also provide a great customer experience as well. No subscriber will be happy for paying more than they should be paying for their usages. So again, customer experience is a must concept. And third one is the high competition. Revenue assurance concept must cover not only the revenues, but also the costs of the organizations. Less errors, happy customers, and lower costs can make your company move ahead in the competition. By helping to reduce the costs, revenue assurance units may help organizations in a great way. And finally, and maybe the most important one, the regulations. Revenue assurance units prevent billing or billing-related issues even before they happen. Such billing errors can cause serious penalties from the local regulations. So a well-functioning revenue assurance unit will be a great team player in your defense line. As moving to our next slide, I'm going to take you back to the first days of 2017. At that time, I was the fraud manager of Turkcell. Then it was announced that there will be an organizational development in our unit, and it was decided that a revenue assurance team and the fraud team should merge together. And I believe that was a great idea. For telcos out there, if you haven't merged those 2 teams together yet, I strongly suggest to do the same thing with your company. Those 2 teams literally use the 70% of the data with same data using for their investigations, and merge these 2 teams together, and eventually you will notice that 1 + 1 will be equal to 3 teams with that merging. I strongly suggest doing that merge. Anyway, I was given the task to manage for both teams as one unit. On that time, revenue assurance team was an actually isolated team trying to do their best with a small budget and even a smaller support from the former management. Even there was a lack of support, the team was formed by amazing coworkers. There were sophisticated engineers with lots of experience in revenue assurance field and business as well. And it was very clear that with some management support, we could make revenue assurance team great again. I hope some of my friends from that time are watching me now. I want to say, guys, you were the amazing guys. You were the best coworkers I have ever worked with. I hope the best for you. Well, after that merge, we sat down with the magnificent revenue assurance team to identify the needs to come back again. After several meetings, we came out with a roadmap, and we brought that roadmap to our management to ask for their support. We finally managed to convince our management, and the support was approved. And to be more systematic, it was decided that we need to get an external and independent assessment process to evaluate and the existing capabilities and the maturity level of the existing revenue assurance team. Since this is not a commercial presentation, I'm not going to name any names, but I will tell you that we worked with a Big Four company for this assessment process. After months of work, we came out with a recipe with 5 major pain points to improve the maturity level of the existing team, which you can see on the screen. First one was the system. We needed a functional, user-friendly tool. We had a tool was running on, but it was updated, not updated for several years. We needed to empower the revenue assurance team since they are very sophisticated stuff. We need also some empowerment on the team. The company culture was another pain point. We needed high support from the management. Also, we needed a high collaboration in the organization. Digitalization was also another point. We needed to use RPA, which refers for robotic process automation, and some big data features like machine learning and artificial intelligence in our investigations. And finally, we need a very strong strategy. I'm going to get into the details now. Moving to our next slide, it's about the first pain point, the system upgrade. Since there was not enough budget, revenue assurance system was not updated for several years. That was causing a few problems, such as there were insufficient reconciliations with the systems. Another issue was the coverage. We were only covering the mobile operations by that time, but Turkcell is a big company, and they have a few more sister companies like the microfinance company and the fixed line company. Absence of a dashboard was also another issue. There were no decent reporting over the existing revenue assurance system. And we also needed an upgrade on the existing revenue assurance tool where the old version was not so user-friendly. To cover those pain points, we started a few projects. With those projects, revenue assurance tool was updated to the latest version, which gave revenue assurance team a great control over the related systems. 400 plus reconciliations were added to all systems to close more gaps on those platforms. Our coverage in the organization expanded by including sister companies into our scope, like the fixed company, the electricity company, microfinance company, and the e-money company. And finally, digital dashboard running over the revenue assurance tool was launched. Dashboard provided live data from the revenue assurance tool, such as the mismatched data from the systems or the critical alerts to be checked over the tool. I can say that running a digital dashboard was the first step of our digitalization in the company. My next slide is about revenue assurance team. As I mentioned before, revenue assurance team was formed by sophisticated coworkers. They had several years of experience about revenue assurance. They were very well educated engineers, and they had a great potential. But the main problem was the team was not empowered by the former management enoughly. That was causing a few problems, such as firstly, demotivation. For instance, team was using old titles, such as the classical revenue assurance expert title. In order to make a fresh start, we thought that we should remove those old titles with newer and fancier ones. we had to blow the cobwebs away. Insufficient headcount was also another problem. There were not enough headcount in the team to reach our targets. There wasn't an assigned operating model in the team. Some roles were overlapping or some tasks were remaining unassigned in the team. This was causing a problem to work in a harmony. There should be strict definitions about their responsibilities for each team member to guide them while operating. To cover those pain points, we first assigned a new target operating model, which clearly defines the role in the unit, each unit in the unit. We divided the roles into three main titles: strategy, domain, and analysis. Strategy role was covering the activities about revenue assurance strategy, targets, KPIs, coverage projects, and the risk assessment process. Domain role was covering the activities such as IT projects, development, and the people who is responsible from the domain is the head of the product owner of our agile board. This role can be considered as the bridge between the IT function and the revenue assurance function. And the analysis role covers the activities such as daily operations, reporting, controlling of the dashboards, root analysis for the findings and leakages and the similar problems. As you would remember, another pain point was we didn't have enough resources. We had several meetings with HR department, and finally we convinced HR department that we needed more friends on board. Everyone knows dealing with HR department, especially for additional budget, is a killer, but we finally managed to convince them. So new friends joined on our team, which gave us a huge muscle power. Also, we assigned an efficient new titles referring to our target operating model, such as senior domain expert or senior strategy expert, which I believe sounds fancier than the recent titles. You may think that how will just changing the titles affect on the motivations of the staff? Well, to be honest, I was feeling the same in the beginning, but later on, we find that it's working perfect on the staff. It was like a fresh start for them. And later, when I talked to my friends in the team, I heard from them, they said that the new titles also helped them on their relations with other departments as well. New titles made other colleagues to give more attention, and also they were willing to cooperate. They were willing to cooperate more than usual with my friends. Also, we had lots of trainings. We had several outdoor activities such as running together, and even we formed a book club to spend more time together. All of those actions had a very positive effect on our team, leading to a better motivation. And I will show you a figure at the end of my slides about this motivation. My next slide is about the company culture. To understand the level of awareness in the company about revenue assurance organization, surveys sent out to the related departments, such as the network team or the marketing teams or the pricing teams. When we get the results from the related departments, it was obvious that there was a little awareness about revenue assurance in the organization. For example, some of the responders thought that revenue assurance is a part of internal audit. Probably that was the main reasons why some teams were not so eager to work with us. But we needed a high collaboration to succeed in the organization. It was very clear that to build an awareness in the company, revenue assurance team should step up and explain the reasons for its existence in the company. The first thing we did, we wrote down a charter about what's the role and what are the responsibilities of revenue assurance team in the organization. We made sure that this time the charter also explained the difference between internal audit and the revenue assurance function. This charter was approved by the C-level management, which also empowered revenue assurance team in a very strong way. We also organized monthly meetings with the top management about our progress and scope, which provided us a very nice visibility. And finally, we organized a steering committee. The committee was formed of co-workers from all departments in the company. Meetings were held quarterly. In that meetings, committee decided which will be the revenue assurance next move. Since the committee was formed of co-workers from the different departments, we can easily assume that the revenue assurance roadmap were decided and approved by the whole organization. I think organizing a steering committee was a great idea to build up a successful collaboration in the organization. And I also strongly suggest that to do the same if you feel that you need more collaboration in your organization as well. Moving to our next slide, I'm going to talk about strategy. To be honest, our strategy was quite reactive. It was mainly based on detection methodologies. The coverage of the revenue assurance was also inefficient. As I told before, it was just covering the mobile company, but there were other sister companies to be taken care of. And also, another big issue was, as a result of being reactive, our scope was not covered by a proper risk assessment process. As a solution to those problems, we first decided to try to change our mindsets from being reactive to be more proactive. For instance, we started to gather as much as data as we can to make some predictions over the systems. Also, as an outcome of updating our revenue assurance system, we had more visibility on different layers, and that gave us a more control over the systems. For instance, we put several controls before the billing was done. It was a complete replication of the full billing process. We were looking for mismatches on errors on the systems to be solved before the billing was done. Also, another big step to be more preventive was to undertake a proper risk assessment process. By saying risk assessment process, I'm meaning that all new products, packages, bundles, tariffs, etc., would be assessed and approved by the revenue assurance team before they go live. This process gave a huge potential to the revenue assurance team to prevent or predict the problems that may occur in the future. And also, I strongly believe that a proper risk assessment process is a must-have step for all organizations. Let's move to our next slide, which is about digitalization. Our reporting was also an issue for us. There were some KPIs reported to the management which were not telling so much about what was going on the revenue assurance team. Reporting of the findings or the incidents also were very insufficient. And also revenue assurance couldn't find a place for itself in the CEO dashboard, where the most of the critical KPIs were traced by the C-level management from the whole organization. Another issue was our workload was so much and even the basic controls were held manually. And there was another issue that there were no big data features such as artificial intelligence or machine learning studies held in the scope. And to be honest, if you want to be noticed in the organization, fancy reporting is a must. Even if you are reporting very basic data, you should serve it in a very good looking way. That was the main reason we created our own templates for our reporting about our findings or incidents. Then, as another step, we added more KPIs to our targets. Our new KPIs also were added to the CIO dashboard, which gave the C-level management a perfect visibility and transparency over the revenue assurance units. We also started to automate some controls to save some time for our analysis. As I mentioned before, those controls, those basic controls were not so much value-added controls, so they could be handled by automation easily. Then two separate projects were launched. One project was aiming to add more robotic process automation to our scope, and the other one was aimed to use more artificial intelligence or machine learning technologies in the organization. And as far as I know, those two projects are still going on the company. Well, to be honest, it was a very challenging task to cover those major 5 pain points. It took about nearly almost 2 years to cover them. And the project is still going on with the phase 3, which is planned to cover a RPA, AI or machine learning developments. And also a very big moment for my colleagues, it's the margin assurance project. And after all that work, let me show you some results in my next slide after this transformation, what happened in the company. After welcoming more colleagues on board, our headcount growth by 60%. By adding sister companies to our scope, our coverage expanded by 15%. Maturity score of the existing revenue assurance team improved by 60%. And this figure is also validated by the same Big Four company. Employee loyalty score improved by 60%. This figure was also measured and validated by an independent organization. This is the figure, I think this is the great figure showing the motivation level of the team. And finally, benefits detected by revenue assurance increased by 100%. We managed to double that score on that area. By looking at those numbers, I think we achieved very good things in that transformation. And as a final slide, I would like to shortly, briefly talk about the future of the revenue assurance. I want to share my point of view about where will be the next step of the revenue assurance in the near future. Due to global surveys, revenue loss is about between 1 or 2% of the total revenues of the organizations. It is also believed that only half of the revenue losses are being detected by these classical methods. The other half remain unnoticed, and that should be a huge number. I believe that by adding modern methods such as the RPA technology, machine learning studies, artificial intelligence, and using big data, margin assurance projects, also using asset management in your function will help organizations to secure their revenues in a much better way. This holistic approach, adding these digitalization, big data, margin assurance, asset management, is named as the business assurance. Business assurance will take the role of the revenue assurance with a more holistic approach to cover the organization's all needs under just one platform. Well, that was all. Thank you very much for joining my session. I hope you liked it. Now I'll be more than happy if you have any questions for my presentation.